Okay, guys, McFloyd here. Today we're going to talk about something that happened on Facebook. It was just a typical thing that happens all the time on Facebook. This lady we're going to call Ashley posted an image of herself breastfeeding, and it was a tasteful photo of a very lovely working-class woman with her contented-looking infant, in her arms, and a beautiful big breast just bare hanging out. Um, you know, I, But the trouble arose from the fact that she was sitting in a restaurant, and another female patron took offense to her nursing uncovered and showing, her boob, and so this other patron showed disgust and harumph of all these things, and that's really kind of up to the two of them to work out, and probably the owner of the joint should get involved. I guess. And for me, that's not the subject of this little talk right now. The trouble is the logic and reason that come into play here. I'm here to help restore logic and reason because we seem to be losing it in America. I see it around me, everyday chaos, misunderstanding, lack of logic, and certainly unreasonableness prevails. So I just want to take a closer look at this. And as usual, I'll play the devil's advocate, starting out saying that both the adults in the story are right. You know, the comments on the topic range from loving acceptance to condemning finger wagging, and from other mothers who cover when they're nursing with a nursing blanket, things like that. And that seems sensible enough. What's the harm in covering? Well, think about it. Have you ever tried eating with a blanket over your head? Especially on a hot summer day. The view's kind of limited. It might be dark, sweaty, humid. So, but anyway, again, this is really not the issue. It opens another debate about social mores and values to touch on learning by seeing, which also isn't the issue. That includes other mothers learning that it's okay to nurse and breastfeed in public, other children learning that it happens. Of course, then little Susie's going to go home and ask Mommy, did you breastfeed when I was little? And if she says no, she'll have to ask why not. And if she says yes, she'll say why and all that. But what really goes on, it gets convoluted. It's such a natural, simple thing. But what I'm really wanting to talk about is what came out of the story for me was a point that Ashley pushed, and how it's really the number one problem facing Americans right now, freedom-loving Americans anyway. And stay with me for a second, because what she did, Ashley pointed out some things. After a few paragraphs of banter about the issue, she starts off with, number one, breastfeeding mothers are protected under federal law. Well, and this is where the problem is, because it's a lie, basically. She's talking through her ass, and she doesn't have a clue about it. She's telling a half-truth at best, and here's why. Unless the event took place on federal land or an area under the jurisdiction of the United States and Congress assembled, because that's where the jurisdiction arises from federal law, is from Congress, because they're the ones that make law according to the law. There is no federal law protecting anybody's right to do anything until there's an injured party, okay? This is what people don't understand in America. We've been brainwashed to not know the facts about law and truth in America. On private property, the federal law has no law unless there's an injured party. That's called common law. You smack me in the face, you've assaulted and battered me. That's an injury. I can take you to court and try to get some restitution, or have you punished, punitive damages. But Congress has no business in private property issues. So if I'm sitting in a private restaurant and unzip my pants and moon the guy next to me, that's assault, okay? And there's a law, but it's not a federal protection. This guy has a right not to see my ass. Okay, anyway, so we have to understand that federal government has no jurisdiction on private land. And you people, most of you, I'd say many, if not 99.9% of Americans that I talk to, have either already turned off this, so screw you anyway, or you're either confused or thinking, I don't know what I'm talking about, but We got to get back to American values, freedom and liberty and those things, justice. And it doesn't happen by ignorance or by people saying, oh, I'm protected by federal law, because, again, if you're not on federal land or state land, this is something I'll cover in further videos, because Americans have lost contact with the facts. The law started with the Declaration of Independence. Anybody want to argue? Bring it on. Then we have the Articles of Confederation. That was the next big law. It's huge, bigger than the Constitution, but nobody ever talks about it. Then it was the Northwest Ordinance. Then the Constitution was an addendum to the Articles of Confederation. And this is where Americans don't know. We're not taught in school, and you need to know. If you're honestly an American who's looking for liberty and freedom, trying to restore America to maybe some portion of really good truth and justice and all that stuff, well, we need to get honest with ourselves and each other about what law means and who's in charge. Okay? Oh, there's my phone, so I'll have to stop for now.